So we are starting off with the Google sales team, and Pierre is really going to help me to understand these roles because we've had tons of questions back and forth. But some of the key roles that we're showing here on the left are the FSRs, so the field sales reps, the key account executives, key account directors. Even within those three acronyms, Pierre, would you like to talk about how these three interact with each other, and then we'll move over to the CE and the SA?
Yeah, of course. So I've spent some time in the Google ecosystem, right? So prior to my time at Google, I was at another ISV helping build and grow their partnership. And when we kicked off our relationship with Google at that time, it just felt like there were too many players. There were too many different acronyms. Like, what's an FSR compared to a KAD compared to a KAE? We had no idea, and we had to figure that out quickly because the value proposition and what you're speaking to when speaking to these different folks can change depending on what their book of business actually looks like. So when we worked with FSRs, right, think of FSRs as your traditional sellers, right? In a business organization, there'll be like sales reps or key sales reps or whatnot. Our field sales representatives are those folks. They are the first line of selling into a customer organization or into a prospect. When we look at the key account executives and key account directors, think of these as still sales reps, right? But they tend to have a little bit more tenure or more experience. They focus on major accounts. So think of your largest Fortune 500 accounts in your book of business. If you are targeting those, you'll most likely be talking to a key account director or a key account executive. Now, the key account executive and key account director might sound similar and might look like similar roles, but the key account director will sit above usually a key account executive, right? So the key account executive might focus on the day-to-day sales into the organization and trying to grow that cloud footprint in that organization. And the key account director will sit above and really handle those executive relationships across a prospect or a customer.
And I think it's important to mention because we'll get deeper into the slides, but it's all about co-sell. So co-sell sits with these individuals, right, Pierre? So can you talk about a little bit how they view co-sell and how you could probably show up to them to co-sell?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's interesting because I talk to a lot of my partners about how do we best engage with like FSR or KE or KAD. Sometimes it can be difficult, and what I've worked on with some of my other partners, and what we worked on previously when working with Google, is making sure to create channels within channels. Right. So the FSR is the field sales rep that's responsible for selling directly into the customer itself, but there are other people attached to that account that might be able to potentially help you in your co-sell motion with GCP, right? So not only is there an FSR, but there's a KAE, there's a KAD, there's a CE, there's an SA, and other individuals, which we'll talk about as well. But yes, creating channels within channels is really the best way to play around with an account team and make sure that you are talking to the right person. And if you're not 100% sure who on the account team might be the right person to talk to or the best person to talk to, it could be the FSR. Just sending a note and saying, hey, are you the best person for me to have this conversation with? Or is there someone else a little bit more technical or that's focused specifically on my set of technologies that might be able to have a conversation with us in order to get the co-sell motion started?
I love that. Yeah, I feel like being more specific with your ask so they know exactly where to push you is always super beneficial. So come
Ex-
prepared. Great.
exactly.